India, with its diverse landscape. Within this diversity comes a culture steeped in history and religion. One group of people in this complex society are the Hijira, also known as eunuchs or the third sex. They live together in small communities as society has no place for them. In this documentary we will try to understand the process that boys go through to become Hijira and the risk that other boys have of being sexually exploited. And later in the film we will look at how the Christian Church are responding to the Hijira people. The Hijira experience rejection from birth.
The community tortures the women from whose womb the Hijra is born, and she has to listen to the relatives and the society that you have given birth to a Hijra. So the parents think, instead of listening to the community, let's throw the child out of the house. If the father is saying throw the child out, the mother has to throw the child out, and she asks him to leave the home. She will cry a lot. She will be very sad, but she has to throw the child out.
Pana Gabrielle explains how her own existence caused massive friction in her own family.
My father used to drink a lot and trouble my mother, asking why our child has to be born like this, and the community also caused us trouble. So my father used to beat my mother and trouble her, and I didn't want to see it, and so I left home and came into the city. I didn't know where the train was heading to, but I just sat on the train.
In a life full of rejection, where is the church? Boys can come into prostitution when child traffickers visit small towns and villages to recruit vulnerable youngsters.
Then I met a woman in my village who told me about going to Bombay, and then I caught a train and I came to Bombay.
Do you know if any money exchanged hands when she brought you into the city?
आई तो कुछ पैसों का लेन देन हुआ था. This lady here says, Champa says, that the woman used to get 1,000 per person she brings into the city, and Gauri then said that she took 700 rupees to bring her to the city, so she got 700 for that.
Some children escaping from violent homes become vulnerable to traffickers as soon as they arrive in the city.
If the child has come in, you need to get the child out within 4 to 7 days from that position. Otherwise, the child is normally trafficked or sold or into prostitution by the 6th or the 7th day. So the responses have to be that quick.
When you came into the Hijra community, did you understand that prostitution was part of what you would be expected to do?
She was ignorant about this. She did not know. Because I was already abused before I became a Hijra, I did not find it anything new.
Jasmeer Thakur, a leading gay rights activist, points out the reasons why some young boys leave their homes and families to join the Hijra groups.
Sexual exploitation of a boy who is effeminate looking from within the family is what I see the first thing happening to the child. Some relative will probably be abusing, because there are enough cases and evidences of child abusing from within the nearest family friend circle. So I think that is what happens to an effeminate boy who may later on turn out and join the Hijra cult.
Dr. Lalita Edwards, a GP who works closely with the Hijras and prostitutes, sees a link between sexual abuse in the family and boys who join Hijra groups.
Very few children go for castration go for becoming a Hijra on their own, voluntarily. Their desire to become a Hijra, something different, a third gender, is very small, very, very small, maybe at the most 2 to 10%. Boys are trapped when they run away from home. The reason for running away may be many. The father has beaten them up, they have stolen things, or whatever the reason. Some of the reasons are basically because the older people have abused them sexually multiple times and they don't like it.
Ganga, a Hijra in Mumbai, can identify with this form of sexual abuse as a young boy growing up in the village.
I was not expecting it. I was out in the fields cutting grass, and one man came and he forcibly took me into the sugarcane field. I did not know that this man is going to do all these bad things with me, and he did it with me. It was unexpected.
So, how old were you the first time this happened to you?
I was 13 years old that time.
What was your first experience of sexual abuse?
When I was 13-15-year-old, the same thing happened to me. I was abused when I was small. At first I didn't like it, but then slowly I started to like it when it happened repeatedly, and then I started to enjoy it, and then I myself started to go along with boys and do the stuff that I was doing.
So how do young boys develop a relationship with the Hijra?
If he sees a couple of Hijras moving around in his areas, it would be very difficult for the person to connect with them immediately. It would take him a year, 2 years to even form a simple smile, and that Hijra reciprocating, because the Hijra has easily figured out that this boy is effeminate. So they will constantly be hovering somewhere around to try and make contact. So if they can induce the person into this process, whether the person is coming on his own, would he like to live with them, they would show him a part of life which is very glamorous. These are very clear inducement processes. If you live with us, you can wear a sari, you can wear jewelry, you can wear makeup, you will live like my child, I will not beat you, I will not do this to you, there will be no violence, there will be no abuse. So that life always looks good at the initial part of it. In my house, on a daily basis, I am abused, I am beaten up, my friends tease me, wherever I go, this thing keeps happening to me. So might as well I start living with these people and shun this all violence and abuse. Because who wants to be in an abusive situation constantly, 24/7? I think any person, child, adolescent, elder, whoever, will definitely take a process of shifting out, and that's when the person shifts out and he goes and joins the Hijra cult.
An alternative route to boys joining the Hijra groups or being sexually exploited is directly from the streets.
The third non-formal process is definitely the street children, which exist in India, which is a huge population, and that is more so to do with negotiations of space, food and protection. But that's again within sexual exploitation, abuse and violence.
Children are also picked up from traffic signals into cars. I'll give you a nice chocolate, come let's go for a drive, and they are abused.
Now, for example, if there was a unit community over here, if they find that there are runaway kids from homes, then or any kid who has run away from home or has just left home because of a fight, like how I told you the gang of traffickers operate. So then they would lure them from there. That's one form. One very clear form that I have seen. A number of cases I've seen is where boys and girls who are vulnerable, who have some difficulty in the family and have left their house, I've found that the community can pray about them. The other thing that I have clearly seen is that due to discrimination, because a person is sexually oriented in a different way, is, for example, is gay, they tend to exploit that discrimination to traffic these kind of people into their community. I have seen those cases as well.
Very clearly in the 90s, boys were bartering their body for food, shelter, protection. The same thing we have also seen at Bombay Central and VT, just to sleep on the railway platform after the last train has gone. The kind of barter they would do is very evident.
For the majority of Hijra, mainstream employment is out of the question. You will often see them dancing at weddings or asking for money in the streets. But these alone won't sustain their needs, so they are forced into sex work just to survive.
Hijras don't like to be sex workers, but we cannot survive just begging from door to door or from shop to shop. We need more money to survive, and so we have to sell our bodies. When we sell our bodies, we get little bit more money so we can survive.
Okay. How do you feel about being used by people in that way?
What can I say? She says. I have to do it for my stomach. I have to do it because I have to sustain myself. Whenever they call me, I have to go.
Young children need to be educated wisely about sexual relationships, sexual abuse and trafficking. Prejudice towards different sexualities also needs to be challenged. So how do children learn about sex?
They will pick up anything. They get it from books, magazines, pornographic magazines, internet, and movies, and unfortunately we don't have a control over it. They learn anything, and we can't complain later on. Which is why I always tell parents that, home is the place where children need to learn about sex.
The other thing is to teach boys how they can protect themselves from being sexually abused. And if they are sexually abused, if they have been abused, immediately they should report it to someone who understands.
Mahatma Gandhi once said, if you want to have a happy generation, keep children innocent. Their right to innocence is very, very important.
As well as social reform, we also need to consider legal reform.
I think first of all, we need to have a very clear-cut legislation passed and in place. Followed with that, enough awareness by the media about the law in the right perspective. See civil societies collectively working and forming a network, because they are the ones who are in touch with issues like that, to see that they can in process work with local police stations, local communities, and take up the onus of doing more and more awareness.
But preventing sexual exploitation of children requires good implementation of the law.
There is no law in India for male rape. There is a section 377 of the IPC, but that does not protect the victim, because it puts both the victim and the perpetrator in the dock. There is enough evidences to that effect, and most of the cases under which people have been convicted have been the girl child. The boy child cases have not got convicted.
Recently, our health minister at the International AIDS Conference in Mexico made a statement that, it would be good to relook at those laws, because they're quite archaic, they're very old laws, and they're being abused. The laws are being abused because many times the police harass men who have sex with men because of this law, and try to kind of take money from them and all that.
I think a law can only be successful if it is made aware of, B, if there are enough convictions around it, I think that will deter a lot of people from doing child sexual abuse.
We wanted to save a boy who was trafficked for any purpose. We have the tools necessary to intercept and save him. Could we have better tools? Yes, of course. I think, but we have the tools. So the law, as far as the law is concerned, it doesn't show that a bias or a discrimination or a partiality that only girls are trafficked and not boys. As far as the field is concerned, as far as what's happening on the grassroots level is concerned, traditionally organizations have not focused on boys, though a lot of the grassroots level people have often told us that that is the case, that we need to look into it. We have started tackling it for the last 2 years, and what we are finding is about 50% of all our victims are boys.
However, for some boys, it's already too late.
If you're looking at stopping trafficking, violence, abuse, exploitation, either of all that for a male child, is first and foremost to make socially people aware with proper documentation and case studies which shows this is the fact, correct statistics.
It is estimated, according to what we know, that there may be about 250,000 Hijiras or eunuchs in the city of Mumbai. And we are working in 3 different slums where there is a strong Hijra presence. Our basic involvement with the Hijra community started with the HIV and AIDS awareness work. We found the Hijras more receptive. I'm talking, say, about 7 or 8 years ago. They wanted to know about HIV. It was a very high risk group. It still is a very high risk group because most of the Hijras, I would say 99% of the Hijras in Mumbai are into prostitution. From our statistics, almost 100% who come to us attest to be HIV positive.
या MSM कह सकते हैं। एक मेल है जो फीमेल के साथ भी संबंध रख सकता है, एक आदमी के साथ भी संबंध रख
Rajesh,
सकता है।
previously a sex worker, now supports and educates other male sex workers, helping to protect them from HIV and other dangers.
कई आदमी के साथ संबंध रख सकता है, उनको होमोसेक्सुअल कहा जाता है और MSM कहा जा सकता है।
Rajesh, can you tell me about your story?
I never knew anything about physical or sexual relations. I only knew that I used to feel more like a girl. When I was in the 8th grade, during the holiday time, one of the other boys forced me to have sexual relations with him, which was a new area to me. Then this boy blackmailed me by saying, "I'll tell your parents and your brother." And it used to happen often. The reason I came into this project is that I am a man who has had sex with other men. So I can understand the heartache and the problems, the stress and frustrations of transgender and men who have sex with men. My main role on the project is that I go to the hot spots where a lot of men who have sex with other men go. The target group are those who are new to this activity. We counsel these men and help them and try to encourage them to leave these situations.
If contracted, HIV often causes huge rejection within the Hijra community.
Once the Hijra become HIV positive, everyone in society pushes them away. Even the madam rejects them. This causes great problems for them. So I work with them.
It's very interesting. A community that is already stigmatized, yet stigmatizes somebody who lives with HIV. and throws them out of the community. That's when they saw us, the church going with them, taking care of them till they die, touching them, taking food for them. And that really changed their minds so much, and we became so much attached, and there was a strong relationship there that they started to trust us. And instead of us now going and trying to find Hijras who need our help, they started to send them to us. Even the gurus and the Nani gurus started to send the Hijras to us, knowing that these people love, these people touch us, these people are not ashamed to walk with us or to do something for us.
Hannah Gabrielle, a Hijra who has committed her life to Christ, works alongside Dr. Lalita Edwards, providing support to rejected Hijras and sex workers.
Once the Hijra are HIV positive, they are thrown out from the house and they have nowhere to go. Even their family won't allow them to stay. So they get very disappointed and discouraged, and many of them have committed suicide. I have known many to do this. So we, who know them, support them, which is encouraging and gives them a purpose to live a longer life, sometimes an extra 20 years.
What is the church's response to the Hijra community?
I think the church responds to the Hijras in a very poor manner. I think the church, and when I say church, I include myself in that. I think we've discriminated them and stigmatized them a lot more. One of my friends, she's a Hijra. She's been living with HIV for the past 20 years. And 5 or 7 years ago, she wanted to become a Christian. And she went to different churches, and they were so shocked that none of them were willing to baptize her. It almost seemed like the baptism pool would be unclean if she were to be baptized in that. So she went through a lot of trauma, and finally she did find a small church that did baptize her. So she lives as a Christian now. She's doing a lot of, she heads an organization, a small organization of people living with HIV and AIDS, and is doing a great job.
The attitude of the church to the Hijras has not been a negative, but the church has been passive and quiet about the issue. But I know of certain churches who are also open, but they are also judgmental, saying that, well, if a Hijra comes to the Lord, if he starts coming to the church, he must, because God made a man and God made a woman, nowhere it says God made the third gender. So if he's a man, if he was born as a man, he must now start addressing like a man, and he must start behaving like a man, which it's not very easy for them.
I asked leaders, pastors, if I bring a Hijra in your church, where will he, she sit? Not with the men was the answer, because men are afraid of Hijras. Not with the women, they are afraid of Hijras. So where will they sit? We don't know. That is the church's response. You know what the church wants to do? They will be very happy to have a separate Hijra church, but not to include them in the community at large.
So we will leave the final words to the people that this documentary is about.
Except God and the world, there is no one to console us.
We don't want people to become like us. We are seeing it happening, and we think that they should not be like us. Our life has been spoiled. Many times young boys come to us, we shoo them away, we don't encourage them, but they still come back. You know why we ask them to go? Because we don't want their life to be spoiled like our life is. We are nowhere now. Nobody wants us. Nobody accepts us. We have no place in the society, and we don't want them to go through this. But they don't understand. If they don't understand, then there is no other way but we have to accept them into our community. The Hijras love Jesus. They are knocking the doors of the church. If Jesus was here today, practically, he would definitely, push aside the crowd and hear these silent screams of these people. I think we should leave everything aside and bring them in.
Pana Gabrielle experiences firsthand the acceptance and love of a church pastor.
I was going to one of the suburbs to perform some dancing, and some people were troubling me, and there was a Christian pastor sitting there. And the pastor got up and gave me a place to sit. And the pastor then prayed for me. And then the pastor asked me where I lived. The pastor said, "Your life is so hard. Jesus is there to take your troubles." And I was crying in the train, and he prayed for me. And I felt a light in my soul. And I gave my address to the pastor. I said, "If I don't dance, how am I going to eat?" And the pastor said, "Don't worry, God will take care of you and you will stop doing this." And there were a lot of hooligans in the park who used to trouble me a lot. And they took me away, but the police rescued me. And then I prayed, and all of a sudden, Jesus saved me. Since then, I've started praying and reading my Bible.
Rajesh, if you could sum up the message that you want the Indian church to hear, what would it be?
What I specifically want to tell people in the church is that we are just like you. Come to us, come near us, and see how kind, loving, gentle, and how nice we are. We're just like you. We also have the same feelings. So come to us, see us, and get to know us personally.